The rainbow flag burned in her hands, its colors curling into ash under the weight of her rage. Harper Evans, 25, stood in the chaos of San Francisco's Pride Parade, her heart pounding with a fury she couldn't name. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not among the glitter and laughter. Not where love waved its banners so freely. It was June, the air thick with summer heat and the pulse of celebration. Harper had come to the city for a job interview. Not this. But the crowd had swallowed her, pulling her into the heart of the Castro district, where rainbow flags draped every corner and strangers danced to music she didn't understand. She felt like an intruder, her small-town upbringing clashing with the unapologetic joy around her. Back in her rural Ohio hometown, people whispered about those kinds behind closed doors. Harper had grown up hearing the slurs, the sermons, the warnings. She didn't hate anyone, she told herself that, but the sight of two women kissing under a streetlight sparked something raw inside her. Something she buried deep. She didn't plan to tear the flag. It was a fleeting impulse, born from the churn of emotions she couldn't untangle. The flag hung loosely from a vendor's stall, its colors too bright, too bold. Harper's hands moved before her mind caught up, ripping it down, her fingers digging into the fabric as if it had personally wronged her. The crowd gasped. A woman nearby, with long black hair and eyes that cut through the noise, stepped forward. "What the hell are you doing?" she demanded, her voice steady but sharp. Her name was Lena Alvarez, though Harper wouldn't learn that until much later. Lena, 27, was no stranger to pride. She'd been coming since she was a teenager, finding solace in the one place where she could be herself, a queer Latina woman who'd fought for every inch of her identity. She wore a soft blue sweater despite the heat, her hospital bracelet peeking out from the sleeve, a reminder of the blood disorder that had shadowed her life since childhood. Lena's eyes locked onto Harper's, not with anger but with a quiet challenge, as if daring her to explain herself. Harper froze, the torn flag dangling from her hands. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, pressing in on her. She wanted to run, to disappear, but Lena's gaze held her in place. "You don't get to do that," Lena said, stepping closer. "Not here. Not to us." Harper's mouth opened, but no words came. She dropped the flag and bolted, her sneakers pounding against the pavement as she fled the festival, the city, and the weight of what she'd done. Back in her motel room, Harper sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling. She didn't know why she'd done it. She wasn't a monster, she'd never hurt anyone before. But the flag, the crowd, the openness of it all had felt like a mirror held up to her face, showing her something she wasn't ready to see. She'd grown up in a world where love was supposed to look one way, and anything else was a sin. Yet, as she replayed Lena's words in her mind, she felt a pang of something new. Guilt, maybe. Or something deeper. Harper got the job, a low-level marketing gig at a startup in the Bay Area, and moved to San Francisco a month later. She told herself it was a fresh start, a chance to leave her small-town baggage behind. But the city had a way of remembering. Pride flags hung on every other street, and every time she saw one, her stomach twisted. She avoided the Castro, avoided the bars where queer couples laughed and held hands. She told herself she was fine, that she didn't care. But at night, alone in her tiny apartment, she couldn't shake the image of Lena's face, those piercing eyes that seemed to see right through her. Lena, meanwhile, was fighting her own battles. Her blood disorder, a rare form of anemia, required regular transfusions, and the hospital visits were becoming more frequent. She worked as a graphic designer, pouring her energy into her art, her community, her fight to live unapologetically. She hadn't forgotten the woman who'd torn the flag. How could she? It wasn't just the act. It was the raw pain in Harper's eyes. The kind that spoke of someone wrestling with their own demons. Lena didn't know Harper's name, but she carried the memory of that moment. A reminder of why she kept showing up to Pride. Year after year. Their paths didn't cross again for months. Not until a rainy October evening when Harper, now settled into her new life, walked into a crowded coffee shop to escape the downpour. She was scrolling through her phone, distracted, when she bumped into someone, spilling coffee across the counter. "Oh, God. I'm so sorry," Harper stammered, looking up. And there she was, Lena, her dark hair damp from the rain, her hospital bracelet still visible under her sleeve. The recognition hit them both like a shockwave. "You," Lena said, her voice low but not unkind. Harper's face burned. She wanted to apologize, to explain, but the words caught in her throat. Lena didn't wait for an explanation. She grabbed a handful of napkins and started cleaning the spill. Her movements deliberate, calm. "You owe me a coffee," she said, a faint smile tugging at her lips. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was something. Harper nodded, her heart racing, and ordered 2 coffees. They sat in silence at first, the weight of that day at Pride hanging between them. That coffee shop meeting wasn't the start of a friendship. Not exactly. It was more like a collision. 2 lives brushing up against each other in a way neither could ignore. Harper didn't know why she kept going back to that coffee shop, hoping to see Lena again. She told herself it was guilt, a need to make things right. But there was something else. To a pull she couldn't name. A curiosity that kept her awake at night. Lena, for her part, wasn't sure why she didn't walk away. Maybe it was the way Harper's bravado had cracked, revealing something raw and human underneath. Maybe it was just instinct. Over the next few weeks, they saw each other more often, not planned, but inevitable in a city as small as San Francisco felt. A nod at the coffee shop. A brief conversation at a bookstore. Each encounter chipped away at the wall between them, though neither would admit it. Harper started to notice things about Lena, the way her hands moved when she talked about her art, the quiet strength in her voice when she spoke about her community. Lena noticed Harper's hesitation, the way she seemed to be searching for something she didn't know how to ask for. By December, the city was alight with holiday decorations, and Harper found herself standing outside Lena's art gallery, where a small exhibit was being held. She didn't know why she was there, only that she'd seen Lena's name on a flyer and felt compelled to go. Inside, Lena's work was on display, bold, colorful pieces that told stories of resilience and love. Harper stood in front of a painting of 2 women holding hands under a rainbow flag. And for the first time, she didn't feel the urge to look away. She felt something else instead. Something that scared her as much as it thrilled her. Lena found her there, staring at the painting. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said, her tone light but her eyes searching. Harper swallowed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't expect to be here either." They stood side by side, not speaking, but the silence felt different this time. It wasn't heavy with guilt or anger. It was something softer, something that made Harper's chest ache in a way she didn't understand. Winter in San Francisco was a paradox, crisp air laced with the warmth of holiday lights. Streets buzzing with people who seemed to belong everywhere and nowhere. Harper stood outside Lena's gallery, her breath visible in the cold, her mind replaying the painting she'd just seen. 2 women, hands intertwined, their silhouettes glowing against a rainbow backdrop. It wasn't just art. It was a mirror, reflecting something Harper wasn't ready to face. She didn't know why she kept coming back to Lena. Maybe it was the guilt. still raw from that day at Pride. Maybe it was the way Lena carried herself, unapologetic, fierce, yet kind in a way that made Harper feel exposed. They'd started talking more. Small moments that felt like stepping stones across a river Harper didn't know she was crossing. A shared laugh over burnt coffee. A debate about music in a crowded bar. Each encounter left Harper wanting more, though she couldn't say why. Lena, meanwhile, was navigating her own storm. Her anemia was worsening. The hospital visits more frequent. Each one draining her energy but not her resolve. She'd spent years building a life where she could be herself, surrounded by a chosen family who celebrated her queerness, her art, her fight to survive. Yet Harper's presence was a complication she hadn't expected. The woman who'd torn a rainbow flag shouldn't have been someone Lena wanted to know. But there was something about Harper, her awkward apologies, her unguarded moments that made Lena pause. She saw the cracks in Harper's armor, the questions she was too afraid to ask. One evening in January, they ended up at a diner near the Mission District, the kind with sticky tables and neon signs that flickered. Harper had offered to buy Lena dinner, a clumsy attempt at making amends. They sat across from each other, picking at fries, the conversation tiptoeing around the edges of what neither wanted to name. "Why'd you do it?" Lena asked suddenly, her fork pausing midair. "The flag. What was that about?" Harper's face flushed. She'd been dreading this question, but there was no running now. "I don't know," she said, her voice barely audible. "I just felt like too much. Like it was screaming something I didn't want to hear." Lena tilted her head, waiting. Harper took a breath. "Where I'm from, people they don't live like this. Like you. I didn't know how to handle it." Lena leaned back, her eyes narrowing but not unkind. "You think you're the only one who grew up in a place like that. I'm from Fresno. My dad threw me out when I was 16 because I liked girls. You don't get to use your hometown as an excuse." Her words stung, but there was no malice in them, just truth. Harper nodded, her throat tight. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know what I was doing." The apology hung in the air, fragile but real. Lena didn't say it was okay, she wasn't ready for that, but she didn't walk away either. They finished their meal in near silence, the weight of the conversation settling between them. As they stepped outside, the city humming around them, Lena turned to Harper. "You're not as tough as you think you are," she said, a small smile breaking through. Harper laughed, surprised by the warmth it sparked in her chest. Over the next few months, their encounters grew less accidental. Harper started showing up at Lena's favorite haunts, a bookstore, a community center where Lena volunteered. She told herself it was about redemption, about proving she wasn't the person who'd torn that flag. But deep down, she knew it was more. Lena's laugh, her quick wit, the way she seemed to see the world in colors Harper had never noticed that it was pulling her in. And she was terrified. Lena felt it too, though she fought it. Harper was a risk, a reminder of the hate she'd faced her whole life. But there was something disarming about her, something honest in her struggle to understand. Lena caught herself looking for Harper in crowds, wondering what she'd say next, what she'd reveal when her guard was down. It was dangerous, this pull, but Lena had never been one to play it safe. By spring, San Francisco was blooming, cherry blossoms lining the streets, and Harper found herself at Lena's apartment for the first time. It was a small, cluttered space filled with art supplies and books, a rainbow flag pinned above the couch. Lena had invited her over to help with a community art project, a mural for a local youth center. They worked side by side, painting bold strokes of color, their hands brushing occasionally, sending sparks through Harper's veins. She didn't know what this feeling was, but it was new, and it was overwhelming. "You're not bad at this," Lena said, nodding at Harper's section of the Murala swirl of blues and purples. Harper shrugged, trying to play it cool. "I'm just following your lead." Lena laughed, and for a moment, the world felt lighter. But then Lena winced, clutching her side, her face paling. "You okay?" Harper asked, dropping her brush. Lena waved it off. "Just a bad day. It happens." But Harper saw the hospital bracelet, the fatigue in Lena's eyes, and something shifted inside her. She wanted to ask, to help, but she didn't know how. That night, Harper lay awake, staring at the ceiling of her apartment. She couldn't stop thinking about Lena's strength, her vulnerability, the way she made Harper feel seen in a way no one else ever had. She tried to push it down, to tell herself it was just friendship, just guilt. But the truth was clawing its way out, and it scared her to death. She wasn't supposed to feel this way about a woman. Not her. Not ever. Lena, too, was wrestling with her own heart. She'd spent years protecting it, building walls against people like Harper, people who didn't understand, who could hurt her. But Harper wasn't just the woman who'd torn the flag anymore. She was someone trying, someone searching, someone Lena couldn't stop thinking about. It was reckless, but Lena had always been drawn to the things that scared her most. Their connection deepened over shared moments, late-night talks, walks through Golden Gate Park, moments where the world seemed to fade away. Harper started to see the city differently, through Lena's eyes. The rainbow flags didn't feel like a challenge anymore. They felt like a promise. But the closer they got, the more Harper's fear grew. What did this mean? Who was she becoming? And what would happen if she let herself feel what she was starting to feel? Lena's health, meanwhile, was a ticking clock. Her doctor warned her that her condition was progressing faster than expected. She needed a rare blood type for her next transfusion, one that was hard to find. She didn't tell Harper she didn't want pity, didn't want to scare her off. But the weight of it was always there, a shadow behind her smile. The San Francisco summer was relentless, the fog rolling in like a quiet apology for the heat. Harper and Lena were inseparable now, though neither had named what was growing between them. It was in the small things, the way Harper lingered when she dropped Lena off, the way Lena's hand brushed Harper's when they passed a paintbrush. Harper was changing, and she knew it. The city, Lena, the colors of pride, they were unraveling the knots of her past. She'd started questioning everything she'd been taught, the rigid rules of her upbringing. She'd always thought love was a straight line. One man, one woman, no deviations. But Lena was a curve, a question mark, a possibility Harper hadn't dared imagine. It terrified her, but it also made her feel alive. Lena, too, was caught in the pull. She'd spent her life fighting for her place in the world. But with Harper, she felt something softer, something that made her want to let her guard down. They'd sit on Lena's couch, talking about everything and nothing: Lena's art, Harper's job, the way the city seemed to hum with possibility. But Lena kept her illness close, a secret she wasn't ready to share. She didn't want Harper to see her as fragile, not when they were just starting to understand each other. One evening in July, they found themselves at a rooftop bar overlooking the bay, the lights of the Golden Gate Bridge shimmering in the distance. The air was warm, the crowd lively, and Harper felt bold enough to ask something she'd been holding back. "What's it like?" she said, her voice soft. "Being you out proud." Lena sipped her drink, considering. "It's freedom," she said finally, But it's also a fight. Every day, you choose to be seen, even when it hurts. Harper nodded, her chest tight. She wanted to say more, to confess the thoughts that kept her up at night, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she reached for Lena's hand under the table, a tentative gesture. Lena didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined, and for a moment, the world was just the two of them, the noise of the bar fading into the background. But the moment was fleeting. Lena's phone buzzed, a reminder of her next hospital appointment. She excused herself, her smile strained, and Harper noticed the way her hand shook as she typed a reply. "You sure you're okay?" Harper asked, her voice laced with worry. Lena nodded. Too quickly. "Just tired," she said. But Harper didn't believe her. The truth came out a week later, when Harper showed up at Lena's apartment unannounced, a bag of takeout in hand. She found Lena curled up on the couch, pale and exhausted, a stack of medical bills on the table. "What's going on?" Harper demanded, her heart sinking. Lena sighed, too tired to hide it anymore. "I have a blood disorder," she said. "It's complicated. I need transfusions, and it's getting worse." Harper sat beside her, the takeout forgotten. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice breaking. Lena shrugged, her eyes distant. "Didn't want you to look at me differently. I'm still me." Harper reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "You're still you," she echoed, and for the first time, she felt the weight of what Lena meant to her, not just as a friend, but as something more. The revelation changed things. Harper started going with Lena to her hospital appointments, sitting in the waiting room with a book she barely read, her mind racing with worry. She learned about Lena's condition, how her body didn't produce enough healthy red blood cells, how she needed a rare blood type that was hard to find. Harper wanted to help, but she felt powerless, a bystander in Lena's fight. Their bond grew stronger, but so did the tension. Harper was falling for Lena, and she knew it. Every touch, every shared glance, made it harder to deny. But she was still grappling with her own identity, the fear of what it meant to love a woman. She'd never said the word lesbian out loud, not about herself. It felt like a line she wasn't ready to cross. Lena sensed it, to the unspoken feelings, the way Harper's eyes lingered. She wanted to push, to ask Harper what she was so afraid of, but she held back. Her own heart was a mess, torn between wanting Harper and protecting herself. She'd been hurt before, by people who couldn't handle who she was. Harper was different, but she was still a risk. One night, after a long hospital visit, they ended up at Harper's apartment, a small studio with a view of the city skyline. Lena was exhausted, her head resting on Harper's shoulder as they sat on the couch. "You don't have to do this," Lena said quietly. "Stick around. I mean, it's a lot." Harper turned to her, their faces inches apart. "I want to," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "I need to." The air between them crackled, heavy with everything they hadn't said. Harper leaned in, her heart pounding, and kissed Lena. It was soft at first, tentative, but then Lena kissed her back, and it was like the world shifted. For Harper, it was a confession, a surrender, a truth she'd been running from. For Lena, it was a risk worth taking, a moment of hope in a life that felt increasingly uncertain. But the next morning, Harper woke up in a panic. The weight of what she'd done, what it meant, hit her like a tidal wave. She slipped out of bed before Lena woke, her mind racing. She wasn't ready for this. Wasn't ready to be someone new. She left a note, "I'm sorry. I need time," and disappeared into the city, her heart breaking with every step. Lena found the note and felt her world tilt. She'd let Harper in, against her better judgment, and now she was alone again. She threw herself into her art, painting through the pain. But the hurt lingered. She didn't know if Harper would come back. Didn't know if she wanted her to. Weeks passed, and Harper stayed away, wrestling with her fear, her shame, her longing. She avoided the coffee shop, the gallery, anywhere she might see Lena. But the city was too small, and her heart was too loud. She missed Lena's laugh, her strength, the way she made Harper feel like she could be more than her past. Harper's world felt smaller without Lena, the city's colors muted without her presence. She threw herself into work, into late nights at the office, trying to drown out the ache in her chest. But every rainbow flag she passed was a reminder of Lena, of the kiss, of the note she'd left behind like a coward. She'd grown up believing love was a sin unless it fit a certain mold. Now, at 25, she was unraveling that belief. But it wasn't easy. She spent hours Googling, reading stories of women like her, women who discovered their queerness later, who'd had to rebuild their sense of self. Each story felt like a lifeline, but also a mirror she wasn't ready to face. She wanted Lena, but she didn't know how to be someone who could love her openly. Lena, meanwhile, was fighting her own battles. Her health was declining, the transfusions less effective. Her doctor was blunt. She needed a donor with her rare blood type. And soon. Lena didn't tell anyone. Not her friends. Not her chosen family. She didn't want to be a burden. Didn't want pity. She painted instead, pouring her fear and heartbreak into her work, creating pieces that were raw, vibrant, and haunting. One afternoon in September, Lena collapsed at the community center, her vision blurring as she hit the floor. Her friends rushed her to the hospital, where the news was grim. Her condition had worsened, and without a compatible donor, her chances were slim. Lena lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts drifting to Harper. She hated how much she missed her, hated that she still cared. Harper heard about Lena's collapse through a mutual acquaintance, a barista who'd seen them together at the coffee shop. The news hit her like a punch, guilt and fear crashing over her. She hadn't spoken to Lena in weeks, hadn't faced her since the kiss. But the thought of losing her, of Lena slipping away without Harper ever making things right, was unbearable. She went to the hospital, her heart in her throat, clutching a bouquet of wildflowers she'd bought on impulse. Lena was awake when Harper walked in, her face pale but her eyes still sharp. "You came," Lena said, her voice weak but laced with surprise. Harper set the flowers down, her hands shaking. "I had to," she said. I couldn't not be here." They talked, haltingly at first. Harper apologized, her words clumsy but sincere. "I freaked out," she admitted. "I didn't know how to handle this. I'm still figuring it out." Lena listened, her expression unreadable. "You hurt me," she said finally. "But I get it. It's not easy, figuring out who you are." Harper nodded, tears stinging her eyes. "I want to be better," she said. "For you. For me." Lena reached for her hand, a small gesture that felt like forgiveness, or at least the start of it. They sat in silence, the hospital machines beeping softly, the weight of their shared history settling between them. Harper started visiting daily, bringing coffee, book, anything to make Lena smile. She learned more about Lena's condition, about the rare blood type she needed. On a whim, Harper got tested, not expecting a match. When the results came back, she stared at the paper in disbelief. She was a match. Her blood could save Lena's life. She didn't tell Lena right away. The weight of it was too much, the irony too sharp. The woman who'd torn a rainbow flag, who'd run from her own truth, was now the one person who could keep Lena alive. Harper wrestled with it, with what it meant to give a part of herself to someone she'd hurt, someone she was falling in love with. When she finally told Lena, the reaction was quiet but profound. "You're sure?" Lena asked, her voice trembling. Harper nodded. "I want to do this. For you." Lena's eyes filled with tears. But she didn't speak. She didn't need to. The transfusion was scheduled for the next week. A lifeline neither had expected. The day of the transfusion, Harper sat in the donor chair, watching her blood flow through the tube, knowing it would soon be part of Lena. Felt like a second chance. A way to rewrite the story that had started with a torn flag. Lena was in the next room, her own fears quieted by the knowledge that Harper was there, giving her a piece of herself. After the transfusion, Lena's color returned, her strength slowly coming back. They didn't talk about the kiss. Not yet. But the air between them was different, charged with possibility, with hope. Harper started attending support groups, talking to other queer women, trying to understand the part of herself she'd kept buried. She wasn't ready to call herself anything yet, but she was ready to try. Lena, too, was healing, not just physically but emotionally. Harper's presence, her willingness to show up, had shifted something in her. She'd always been the strong one, the fighter. But now she let herself lean on Harper. Just a little. They started spending more time together. Not as friends. Not as lovers. But as something undefined. Something they were both willing to explore. By October, Lena was back at her art. Her energy returning. Harper was there for every step. Helping with the mural. Showing up at the gallery. They laughed more. Argued less. And the city felt like theirs again. But Harper knew she had more to do. More to face. She couldn't erase the past. But she could build something new. The transfusion had changed everything. Though neither Harper nor Lena said it out loud. There was a new rhythm to their days. A quiet understanding that bound them closer. Harper felt it in the way Lena's smile lingered. In the way their hands brushed and neither pulled away. Lena felt it in Harper's presence. Steady and unwavering. A far cry from the woman who'd fled after their kiss. San Francisco was cooling into fall. The streets lined with golden leaves and the promise of rain. Harper was finding her place in the city. In herself. She'd started therapy. A small step toward untangling the shame and fear that had shaped her. She still couldn't say the word lesbian without hesitating. But she was starting to see it as a possibility. Not a threat. Lena was her anchor. Her reason to keep pushing forward. Lena's recovery was slow but steady. Her energy returning in bursts. She threw herself back into her art. Her community. Her life. Harper was there for it all, helping with the youth center mural. Cheering at Lena's gallery shows. Learning the names of her friends. She was still learning. Still stumbling. But she was trying. And Lena saw it. One evening, they walked through the Castro, the heart of the city's queer community. Harper tensed at first. The rainbow flag's a reminder of that day at Pride. But Lena's hand in hers grounded her. A silent promise that she wasn't alone. They stopped at a small bar, where Lena's friends welcomed Harper with cautious warmth. She felt out of place, but not unwelcome. And that was enough for now. "Do you ever think about it?" Lena asked later. as they sat on a bench overlooking the city. That day. The flag. Harper nodded, her throat tight. All the time, she said. I wish I could take it back. Lena looked at her, her eyes soft but serious. You don't have to take it back. You just have to keep showing up. Harper did. She showed up to Lena's hospital appointments, to her art shows, to the moments when Lena needed someone to lean on. She showed up for herself, too, attending Pride events with Lena, not as a bystander but as someone trying to belong. It wasn't easy. There were whispers, tears, people who remembered the flag, but Lena's presence made it bearable. Their relationship was still undefined, a dance of closeness and caution. They hadn't kissed again, hadn't crossed that line since Harper's panic. But the tension was there, a spark waiting to ignite. Harper wanted to be sure, wanted to be someone Lena could trust. Lena wanted to protect her heart, but she couldn't deny how much she wanted Harper, too. One night, at a fundraiser for the youth center, Lena pulled Harper onto the dance floor. The music was loud, the crowd vibrant, and for once, Harper didn't feel like an outsider. They moved together, clumsy at first, then fluid, their bodies finding a rhythm. Lena's laugh was infectious, and Harper felt something loosen inside her, something that had been knotted for years. After the dance, they stepped outside, the cool air a relief. Lena looked at Harper, her eyes searching. What are we doing, Harper? She asked, her voice soft but direct. Harper took a breath, her heart pounding. I don't know, she said. But I know I want to be with you. I'm scared, but I'm here. Lena's smile was small, but it lit up the night. She leaned in, and this time, Harper didn't pull away. The kiss was slow, deliberate, a promise of something new. It wasn't perfect, wasn't the end of their struggles, but it was a start. The next few weeks were a blur of moments, quiet mornings in Lena's apartment, late-night talks about their fears, their dreams. Harper started to say the word lesbian out loud, testing it, feeling its weight. She wasn't fully there yet, but she was closer, and Lena was patient, giving her the space to grow. Lena's health, though, was a constant shadow. The transfusion had helped, but her condition was unpredictable. She needed another soon, and Harper's blood was still a match. Harper didn't hesitate. She signed up for another donation, her resolve stronger this time. It wasn't just about saving Lena's life. It was about proving she could be the person Lena deserved. The second transfusion went smoothly, but it brought a new realization. Harper's blood could keep Lena alive, but it couldn't cure her. Lena's condition was a part of her, just as her queerness was, just as her art was. Harper had to learn to love all of it, the strength and the fragility, the joy and the pain. They started talking about the future, tentative at first. Lena wanted to travel, to see the world through her artist's eyes. Harper wanted to build a life where she could be herself, whoever that was. They didn't have all the answers, but they had each other, and that felt like enough. The city was alive with the colors of pride again, a year after Harper had torn that flag. She stood in the crowd, not as an outsider but as someone trying to belong. Lena was beside her, her hand warm in Harper's, her hospital bracelet a quiet reminder of their shared journey. The flags didn't scare Harper anymore. They felt like a challenge she was ready to meet. Their relationship had grown into something real, something neither had expected. Harper was still learning, still stumbling, but she was open now, unafraid to call herself queer, to call Lena her partner. Lena had let her walls down, too, trusting Harper in a way she hadn't thought possible. They were a team, navigating the messiness of love, identity, and illness together. But Lena's health was a constant undercurrent. The transfusions helped, but her condition was unpredictable, a shadow that could darken without warning. Harper had become her rock, showing up for every appointment, every bad day, every moment of doubt. She'd learned to read Lena's silences, to know when she needed space and when she needed closeness. One afternoon, as they painted the final strokes of the youth center mural, Lena turned to Harper, her eyes bright with an idea. "Let's go somewhere," she said. "After Pride. Just us. Somewhere we can breathe." Harper grinned, caught up in Lena's enthusiasm. "Where?" she asked. Lena shrugged, her smile mischievous. "Anywhere. Everywhere." They started planning a trip. A road trip up the coast to Oregon, where the cliffs met the sea and the world felt wide open. It was a dream, a way to hold on to the future despite the uncertainty of Lena's health. Harper threw herself into it, researching routes, booking campsites, imagining nights under the stars with Lena by her side. But the week before Pride, Lena's condition took a turn. She collapsed again, this time at the gallery, her body giving out under the strain. Harper was there, catching her before she hit the floor, her heart racing as she called for help. The hospital was a blur of tests, worried faces, and Lena's hand gripping Harper's like a lifeline. The doctor's news was stark. Lena needed another transfusion. And soon. Harper was ready, her blood still a match. But the hospital was low on supplies, and the process would take time. Harper felt helpless, watching Lena weaken, her vibrant spirit dimmed by pain. She stayed by Lena's side, reading to her, telling stories, anything to keep her smiling. Pride came, and Lena was still in the hospital. Harper went to the parade alone, carrying a rainbow flag she'd bought herself, a quiet act of defiance against her past. She walked through the crowd, her heart heavy but full, thinking of Lena, of the journey they'd taken together. She stopped at the spot where she'd torn the flag a year ago, the memory sharp but no longer painful. She'd changed, and so had her understanding of love, of herself. Back at the hospital, Lena was stronger, the transfusion working its magic. Harper showed her the flag, her hand steady as she held it up. "I thought you might like this," she said, her voice soft. Lena's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "You're something else, Harper Evans," she said, pulling her close. They talked about the future again, about the road trip, about the life they wanted to build. Lena's condition would always be a part of it, but so would their love, their resilience. Harper knew she couldn't fix everything, couldn't erase the pain of Lena's illness or the mistakes of her own past. But she could be there, could love Lena through it all. As Lena recovered, they started planning again, their dreams taking shape. Harper was learning to live openly, to embrace the parts of herself she'd once feared. She joined Lena's community, not as an outsider but as someone who belonged. They painted, laughed, fought, loved messy and real, the way life was meant to be. The road trip happened in late summer, when Lena was strong enough to travel. They drove up the Pacific Coast Highway, the ocean stretching endless to their left, the cliffs rising sharp and wild to their right. Harper's old pickup truck rattled but held, filled with camping gear, Lena's sketchbooks, and a playlist they'd argued over for days. Lena leaned out the window, her hair whipping in the wind, her laugh brighter than the sun. They stopped at small towns, hiked through redwood forests, and camped under stars that felt close enough to touch. Lena sketched everything: the curve of the coast, The way Harper's face lit up at dawn. The rainbow flag they'd hung on their tent. Harper felt free, unburdened by the weight of her past. She was still learning to live as her true self. But with Lena, felt possible. One night, by a campfire on an Oregon beach, Lena turned to Harper, her eyes serious. "You saved my life," she said, her voice soft but steady. "Not just with the blood. With you." Harper shook her head, her throat tight. "You saved mine," she said. "I was so lost before you." They kissed under the stars, the sound of waves crashing around them, and it felt like a vow not just to each other, but to the lives they were building. Lena's illness was still there, a reality they couldn't ignore, but it didn't define them. Their love did, their choice to keep showing up, to keep fighting. Back in San Francisco, they moved in together. A small apartment filled with Lena's art and Harper's growing collection of books on queer history. They fought sometimes about Lena's stubbornness, Harper's insecurities, but they always came back to each other. Harper started volunteering at the youth center, helping kids like she'd once been, kids who needed to know they weren't alone. Lena's art took on new life, her paintings telling stories of love, resilience, and redemption. She painted Harper often, capturing the way her eyes softened, the way her hands reached for Lena's. At her next gallery show, one painting stood out: two women, one with auburn hair, one with black, standing under a rainbow flag, their hands intertwined. The title was simple: Redemption. Harper stood in front of it, tears in her eyes, Lena's arm around her waist. The crowd around them buzzed with admiration. But for Harper, it was just the two of them, their story laid bare. She'd torn a flag once, out of fear and pain. Now, she carried one, out of love and pride. Their life wasn't perfect. Lena's health would always be a challenge, and Harper's journey of self-acceptance was ongoing. But they faced it together, with courage and grace. They were proof that hate could turn to love, that broken things could heal, that a single act of destruction could lead to a lifetime of creation. As they stood together at the next Pride, rainbow flags waving around them, Harper felt a peace she'd never known. She wasn't the woman who'd torn the flag anymore. She was someone new, someone who loved fiercely, who lived honestly. And Lena, her partner, her home, was right beside her, their hands clasped, their hearts open to whatever came next.